I think as humans, we have this tendency to want to be where we're not. An example of that is I am near the ocean and I love it. It's one of my most happiest places on the planet. Sometimes I just want to be alone in the desert, just out there where there's nobody, where there's complete and utter silence, and I can really hear myself. I can hear the universe. I can just experience just something different than what is my everyday. So I went. I want to cut to some video and just show you the place where I ended up. I didn't have an agenda. I went out there just hoping that I would find something, and I did. So we're gonna run that video. I'll show you some of the stuff that I found out there, and then we're gonna come back and show some of the images and how they were processed in Lightroom. One of those is how we can use Lightroom to blend multiple images into one and make it a really, really great image. So we're gonna get to that. First, we're gonna have some look at the desert, and then we're gonna come back and look at the images. I've been craving the desert for a while, and I ended up here. I am outside of the Salton Sea area, somewhere between Salton Sea and the Anza Borrego Desert. And I've just been climbing up and down these today. A little precarious in places, I have to say, but I've just been having so much fun, and I'm finally getting the camera out. I haven't taken any video yet, but I've just been enjoying this place, and now it looks like we should get a pretty nice sunset with all these high clouds. So I'll document that, see if we can get any cool sunsets, take some more of the footage, and just show what I've come up and down. I went all the way down to kind of where that drops off. The drop off is a little big, so I'm not going to do that. But been able to get up and down a couple of these valleys and find some caves and stuff. I'll go show you the cave. It's pretty amazing. Pretty darn quiet, aside from a passing car every now and then. But a really, really remarkable spot. So I'm going to spend some time here. We're going to do the sunset here, and come back and share how things are going. There it is, that cave. It's like I don't know, it must have been caused by drainage, storm water and stuff, but that it's deep, super deep, but you can climb down from there on the top right and just kind of climb down there and get there, which is really great. A little slippery in places, but it was really cool to get down there and see that, just how deep that is. Just remarkable what nature can create. Excited for the sunset. A little bit of a closer look at it. A little ominous. I'm not going to go down any further right now. But it sure is great to come out and experience something new, you know? You just never know what you're going to find when you get out of your comfort zone a little bit and go find some new places. This is one of them. I didn't expect to stumble across this. Love it. Look at this. That valley just goes straight down. I didn't go down that one. That one looks a little crazy. I think if you slip, I don't know if you're going to catch yourself. Just go all the way down. But look at this place. The sunset should be really awesome too. And if we look way out here, I don't know if you can tell, but that's the Salton Sea. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Beautiful. It's just so quiet. I love the desert so much. I had so much fun out there, and it feels so rejuvenating. And you get back and look at the photos, and it's like, man, what a cool adventure. So let's look at just a couple of the pictures from that day, and then we'll get into how we blended 3 images to create one of these. So here we go. Let's look at this one. This is a close-up of that cave. Hiked down that hill that I showed you and got really close, and could have gotten in there, but I'm not going in there, but could have. Cool picture, really neat cave. This is the Salton Sea. I tried to show it in the video, but you couldn't really see it, so I made a panoramic of the view of the sea. Salton Sea is one of the weirdest places you'll ever see in California, or maybe the entire United States. I don't know, but it's a super strange place. You can Google it and do some research if you want, but Salton Sea, super weird, super cool place. Every road trip needs the quintessential open road shot, so that's what this is, just kind of a fun shot. And then these last 2 are my favorites. I love this one. It's called the Tectonic Gorge, and I assume that with that name and that it sits along the San Andreas Fault, that this was created by earth movement and earthquakes. And I don't know, I'm just obsessed with that place, and the way that the landscape can just sit diagonally like that. Really remarkable. This is the photo that was created out of 3 different exposures, and I'll show you how I did that. And again, this is Tectonic Gorge, a wider view of it at sunset. Super spectacular. And to sit there and just hear the nothingness and the silence and look at the, because visually it's loud, you know, and then auditorily silent. And I just love that juxtaposition of things. Super cool. Okay, so how was this image created? Let's take a look at this right here. These are the 3 images that one image is based off of. So I took 3 different exposures. It's called bracketing in the camera. And so it shoots one that's a little bit overexposed, one that's a little bit underexposed, and then one that the camera says is just about like a correct exposure. So each captures, like this overexposed one captures the detail in the foreground in the hills here. The one that's slightly underexposed, and it probably should have been underexposed even more because that sky is still a little bit blown out, but it had just enough detail to work with. And then the image that's regular exposure, still, I mean, that sky is super blown out, so I should have gone just a little bit slower shutter speeds just to even this out a little bit, but this worked out. So to blend these into one, we select all 3 of these images and then right click and go down, it's just off screen, but there's a photo merge here, and we do photo merge, HDR merge. HDR stands for high dynamic range. So dynamic range is the darks, the difference between the darks and the brights in a photograph and how big that range is. And by shooting 3 exposures, we can increase that dynamic range. When you start to step up to some medium format cameras or those 100 megapixel cameras, sometimes that dynamic range is just built in, like you have it, so you don't have to bracket. If you're working with a micro four thirds camera, sometimes even full frame, there are some scenes that just make sense to bracket. This was one of those scenes that made sense. So we merge, and then Lightroom is just gonna take that and turn it into one single photograph, which it has done here. And already you can see the difference that it made, how it balanced out the sky, it balanced out the foreground, and created an image that we have a lot of potential to work with here. One of the first things that I would do once I start processing this one is go down to, where's my color? The white balance, and get the white balance set, and then do edits from there. And you can experiment. You can go to auto, see what it does, see if you like it or not.
Daylight is going to cool it off a little bit more. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that. Cloudy tends to warm it up a bit. So I don't know. I mean, we might start with auto. The other thing you can do is pick a point. So you can do your little color picker here and then pick a point in the image that is the closest to white that you want to balance. This one doesn't really have that. I wonder if we were to use this area down here as a white balance. Actually, that works. I love that. So that's what I'm going to use. And then that is the starting point, because that's really how it looked when you're there and seeing it with your eyes. So once we have that, then we can start. I'm going to do some masking first. So I'll just select the sky. I want to pull some of the highlights out and just calm that sky down just a little bit. So the highlights we're going to bring down like so. Might bring the exposure down just a touch. Then you start to see we just bring a little bit of that sky back, maybe some contrast, something like that. We might even warm it up a little bit. Yeah, see what that does? I love it. I love it. And then it might make sense to do a duplicate and invert. So then that'll select everything that is not the sky. You gotta be a little bit careful with those mountains in the back, because those will get overexposed real quick. But I wonder if we pull up the exposure just a little bit. I like to bring the blacks down just a little bit so we get some of that contrast. Now it's really starting to take shape. Increase the temp even just a little bit more. And look how far we've come already in just a few quick edits. It's really, really made a difference. And then you can go even further. You might add a radial gradient and just continue to bring out more of that exposure, the way that the sun is falling on these hills here. This can be a nice little way to add some interest to the photo. If we add just a tiny bit of exposure to that, maybe a tiny bit of warmth to that. And then we might do that again on this hill here. So if we do another radial gradient and put that here, it might just give that little extra bit of just interest to this photo. I like to bring the blacks down just a little too. And here I think we're pretty darn close. And then the last things I do when I'm doing a photo, I'll go here to this color grading and usually bring down the midtones just a little. Just depends on the photo. Sometimes move them up, sometimes down. Might look better just adding a little bit of midtone there. Same with the highlights. Just move that dial back and forth, that slider, and see what you like. I like adding a little bit right there. Clarity, it's just as a rule, I usually go down to like between -10, -20 clarity. You can see what it does, like when you really increase it, it just makes it harsh. It's a more harsh photograph. And I like to keep them a little softer, so I'll go down to about -20. But then add in some texture. Typically, I like to do like the 50% rule. Like if I go down to -20 clarity, I'm gonna go to +10 texture, or -19 and +9, whatever. And then the dehaze, again, I typically will add negative dehaze because it brightens up the photograph a little bit and just makes it a little bit more soft. In this case, it might make sense to add some dehaze because I really like how that looks with those jagged hills. And then a little vignette can really finish it off. Look what that does. Look what that does. Really, really cool. And so then we go basically from this to a finished photograph here, all in Lightroom, by blending those three images and creating something that's really spectacular. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave a comment if you have questions and I'll get back to you. If you have content that you would like to see covered, also leave a comment and we'll cover it and it'll be fun. If you're not subscribed, please do. I would love to have you on board. We're doing lots of fun things over here. We're going to some really fun places. I want to take you with me and then show you the photography and then how that photography is processed. So thank you for being here. I'm really grateful for you and we'll see you again next time.